All right, it is 7 o'clock. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda below. On request, and superintendent of the district shall make reasonable accommodation for a person with disabilities to be able to participate in this meeting. Hopefully you do roll call, please. Mr. Albright, Mr. Arnold, Mrs. Brewerly here, Greatorex here, Ms. Kangas here, Mr. Lundy here, Sawira here, Mr. Cafferty here, Mr. Watson here. All right. Next on the agenda is the meeting minutes.
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the attached meeting minutes from August 14th, 2023, as well as the special meeting that was held on August 2023 as presented. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from August 14th and the special meeting minutes from August 23rd, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, we'll move on to the actual approval of the agenda. Board policy provides that the superintendent of schools shall prepare an agenda for all board meetings as directed by the president of the Board of Education.
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. Any disapproval, say nay. All right, we'll move on to our school presentations. We have the Sex Education Advisory Board update. Executive Director of Instruction, Ryan Ritter, will update the board on the status of the SEAB.
Thank you, everyone. So as Mara said, we have been working to reestablish the SEAB, the Sex Education Advisory Board, which unfortunately kind of fell to the wayside during COVID. The name change too. It used to be the Reproductive Health Advisory Committee, and will now, moving forward, call it the SEAB or the CM. We had a lot of interest. If you remember, in July, we sent out to the community an interest form, and over 60 people applied to participate, which is wonderful. If you remember the last time we talked about the SEAB, it's a little interesting that there are certain criteria that have to be met when fulfilling a team, putting people together. So we've been working with rubrics to identify individuals to put forward in front of the Board of Education on September 11th, names for recommendation. So at that time, you'll have a packet of names as well as some guiding documents. I've been working through years of files to try and synthesize and figure out where we left off on certain items and what goals have been established. And so it's been really terrific to get in the weeds and really figure out the work that has to be done. So again, the 11th, you'll have names for recommendation for the upcoming year. We did realize through the application process and through screening that we did not pull in as many students as we would have hoped. So we will be sending out another reminder to students to get student participation in the board. But many of the positions that are often difficult to fill, whether it be clergy or whether it be a medical professional, we were able to fill very easily. Right now, the pool is a very diverse representation of the community, which is wonderful to see. We have a lot of voices and experiences at the table to help make the best decisions for our students. Otherwise, a couple of quick things. Our tech install is going really well. It was fun today. I was able to pop into a million classes and teachers are already playing. Today's a teacher work day, so teachers are setting up their classes. Teachers were playing with their new interactive panels. It was really fun. Misha and her team were over there at the high school helping out. In fact, she and NHS have been absolutely phenomenal. Probably put in at least 20 to 30 hours between the deck and Wiley unboxing and labeling all of our new ELA materials. So today we've seen each other at 3 buildings. She was helping at the high school, helping at the deck, and now here at Bates. So the NHS, a big thank you to you all. You all did an absolutely wonderful job. We really appreciate it. With the tech install, things are 99% done. There's always a lingering little something. Unfortunately, we were a victim of the supply chain like everyone else this summer. So we did not get the appropriate power strips. We were able to make do, and so we were able to call in plan B, and most every screen is ready to go. There are a few classrooms that are going to require an extended power strip that we just can't get access to at this moment. So there are a few classes you may walk into. This looks a little unfinished. It is. We're going to be getting into it as soon as possible. Teachers will have 2 hours of professional development on their new panels tomorrow, after Dr. Timmons has a chance to address the whole district in the morning. And then this Wednesday is a full day of professional development. We have topics ranging from restorative practices, student-led discussion. Our instructional support team will be leading a conversation about learning walks and how to observe each other's classrooms and really remove bias when we do that. In our K-4 program, we'll obviously be focusing on their new ELA. Those staff have already put in 15 to 20 hours of asynchronous work. There have been a few committee meetings as well, so they're feeling really excited and really ready to begin their new ELA program. Otherwise, things are going well across the district. We have some new classes at the high school, including accounting, which hasn't been taught in sounds like 10 years. We have a sales and marketing class, outdoor recreation, hospitality, and then management at the middle school. So a lot of excitement. Teachers look good. They look refreshed. They're ready for school start. And I think that's about it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great, now is the time when we have public participation. Or not. There's no one in the seated in the audience, and we'll give it 10 seconds just in case someone running then. Otherwise, we'll move on to our administrative board updates. Be talking about that, I think it's been 10 seconds, so we'll move on to the superintendent's update.
All right, we have opening day with staff tomorrow at 8 a.m. CPA, welcome to joining us this evening. Should be great. Good enough. We have open houses. The start of the year is getting ready. Open houses are in full swing. There was a parent meeting in high school at 6. There's open houses and deck. Just all week, getting ready to roll. School starts Tuesday, as you know. We are going to talk about some of the transportation issues today and figure out terms with it.
Board president update. I just wanted to give an update. Last week we had the action item of giving me the authority, to put together an ad hoc committee for the multi-generational community center. And the update to that is that it will be myself, trustee Kangas, and trustee Lundy. And also in the information items, our committee's roster is listed, so the big change is just adding that.
We need to reverse that. Yeah, a couple members of the senior center. Maybe are they except for like happens to that. And we have to decide on which date for having. We also have to us. We have decided to think they are meeting at 1 date. Are you good with both?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I'm waiting on.
Can I say a clarifying question about that? Is this committee just gonna be school related and senior center related personnel, or will this committee also involve wider?
We don't want to make, we got, the initial meeting is already gonna be about 9 or 10 people. Let's start with that. Then we'll figure out what we have something.
Yeah, I just was trying to understand how it
We have
is.
something to work.
Okay.
Not to really say something that turns out to be wrong. There's some obvious steps along the board, seniors. And I think my sense certainly is if we look at a variety of perspectives.
Well, that's what I guess I just,
And I think
people are
trying to figure out how to approach what we're looking for and then solicit.
Yeah, we're really just right now, we're at step 1, which is get a committee.
yeah, well, that's what, I think there's excitement in the wider community.
Yeah.
And so I have myself heard from people also. So at some point, just some clarification about like who is on this committee and what this committee does, if there will be opportunities for the wider community to participate. These are just questions that are coming to me specifically, and I'm sure they'll be to other people if not already. So just as putting it out there as a topic for discussion for you guys. Okay.
First need to get the first 9 to 10 people in the room.
Yeah.
And then we just need to get 20 folks.
Right. Yes, totally.
And the, yeah. I will turn it over to the students for their update.
Okay, so last week, a lot of the reasons just kind of teamed up together as part of my career, which is basically just reason seniors working together to jumpstart freshman orientation. So a lot of people gathered together to kind of prepare for the orientation that was supposed to happen on Friday, but because of the power outage and just power problems at the high school, we couldn't hold that, which was a little sad. I know a lot of people were bummed out. But freshman orientation happened to today, so some of those speakers and stuff helped out today, and I think that orientation was pretty good. That's really good. And I know within like the last couple of weeks, a lot of the clubs at the high school have jump started again. Last week, there were 4 days of debate camp and stuff like that, so that's really cool. And I think other clubs are getting jump started. It's fun. And last Friday we had our first school, so that was really exciting. And I know that the student section.
Yeah, I was in my driveway trying to leave to freshman orientation when I got the email that was canceled, so that was kind of funny, but that was going on. Cross country is still going strong. We had our first meet, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, so that went pretty well. Thursday, be exciting. Everyone now has their schedules for their classes this year, which is exciting. I'm excited for the budget.
I have a question and I forgot what it was. All right, we'll move on to our consent items portion of the agenda. Consent items are typically grouped in bulk. Sorry, I was gonna say we have new hires and change budget.
I will move that the board that in both.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent items in bulk. Is there any discussion? All right. I put it to a vote. All those in favor of approving the consent items in bulk, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, we'll move on to our action items. The first one is 2022-2023 fund balance designations. Our packet includes a memorandum from Chief Financial Officer Peter Rafferty regarding our year-end fund balance designations for 2022-2023.
I'll move the Board of Education approve the 2022-2023 fund balance designations for the general fund as included in the attached recommendation from the finance committee. Thank you.
I'll second. Okay. Sorry, I thought, heard you say. It's been moved and allegedly seconded. Is there any discussion? Sharon is up here, ready for our discussion. As always, very thorough. All right. Hearing no discussion or questions for Sharon on the fund balance designations, we'll put it to a vote since it's an action items. We'll do our roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Kangas. Aye. Mr. Lundy. Aye. Ms. Rivera.
Aye.
Okay. And then moving on to our second action item, 2023-2024 fund balance classifications. Our packet includes a summary from the CFO Rashke regarding fund balance classification recommendations.
I'll move the Board of Education authorize the fund balance classifications for the 23-24 fiscal year included in the attached copy.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right.
Oh, I just, sorry. Just hearing Laura say the 23-24, but the memo says 23.
So the classifications are for 23.
Oh, sorry. Fund balance classification.
Right. The two a votes and a roll call.
Ms. Rivera.
Aye.
Ms. Kangas. Aye.
Mr. Lundy,
Aye.
Mr. Rivera,
Aye.
Mr. Ridley.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to our discussion items, our year-end financial results discussion.
I didn't.
I thought there was something.
Sorry, I know, I looked at you. Our packet includes the 2022-2023 year-end financial results compiled by the business office and discussed by the finance committee at their August 22nd, 2023 meeting. This is an opportunity for board members to discuss and ask questions about those results.
Say that I would love an overview of the finance committee's discussion or thoughts or anything the rest of us should pay attention to. From anyone who wants to, not just board members, but should share it too. The bottom line is these, our budget, we expected that to loss, our actions of $1.3 billion. So we were a little bit ahead of us, for a couple of reasons, but we did have quite a thorough discussion in the finance committee about all of this, and the trajectory was.
And the changes required for last, pretty much the last of COVID dollars. Some of we built in, we planned ahead for multiple years of subsidy to students out of COVID. Some of our middle subsidies are athletics. It does include a one-time last minute ORS sort of offset that we always have to guess at after you're already done with the year. So that was $241,000 the last. Actually, it wasn't last 2 weeks ago. So after the year ended, and then there are utilities were a little swing with utilities, and school was pretty consistent. We were positive overall in community ed, food nutrition, and some of those areas. We have the reality that the pages that are attached outline the COVID dollars, and the total we're having $18.9 million. Why there's because and we're put everybody for just a year ahead of time, decided to spend it up front. We didn't get as much as some, but 18%.
I guess the one thing I would suggest board members focus on is the financial results sheet that shows actual and then favorable or unfavorable returns. That will talk to us about right on most of the reality, if you take a look at how major some of those numbers are on variances. If they're the right direction, it's fine. If they're not the right direction, sometimes you do something June that's sure covered.
That's number 3A.
Just getting a feel for how the variances run, I think, is something that's good to have. So, to see these future years like that.
I think the COVID page 3C is something I've been trying to put in each of the quarterly so that you can look down, all the history from the beginning on it. And there was a huge thing that happened when we did the, for the June budget revision this year, because again, ORS said, oh, here's 2.5 million, write us a check. And so we had to add that to our revenue and our expenses. So some of the net numbers where you're looking at $51 million in revenue, those are artificially inflated revenues, and that's not going to be our normal revenue. So these numbers are just like such an anomaly right now. But I want to be transparent. Like these year-end fiscal year end reports are on business office website. Just all the years that I've done them, I've got them out there just to be able to refer back. But the details are in here on why things look the way they do. Whether you just look at the one dashboard page, if that's the results, if that's all you want to know is the results, that's all on the dashboard page. But then the backup pages are just for more and more detailed information. The other thing that I added in this year, we had a lot of discussion at the finance committee, is page 5. Because there's so many questions generally about where's the athletics team money, how does athletics, how do all these things work? And they're all rolled up in our audit into a single fund. That's fund accounting. It has to all go under community services fund. So, but there are in essence 5 different programs we operate under community ed, which under community services fund, which end up being the ones where people are asking you all the questions, right? So this page was intended to break that down a little bit so that they go, where is that money? You can show them that on this page, right? Get that question back.
That question is about that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
And so just to be super clear, what page 1 is telling us is that our actual deficit for the 22-23 budget year was that we were negative 1.3 million, correct? And as of our June adoption, which we understand is not the real budget, we will do a revision in November, which is much more meaningful. But as of right now, the budget we've adopted shows that we are minus 2.5 million.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to be super clear that that is the current status of everything.
Correct. Okay. And then the ending fund balance.
Actually,
Okay, and that is without our contract
I
negotiations.
think the 1,000,003 would be against our approved budget. That element is $1,044,000.
So our audit will show we were $1.3 million expense over revenue. However, if you start to peel that back and say, well, there's numbers in there that, we had teaching supply carryover, that's not really an operational savings. That's where page 3A is taking those results of 1.33 million that you're gonna see in the audit when Kim comes and presents and says, how did we actually perform operationally? And that's the 1.4 million.
I said it back. The audit will show the $1,003,000. The reality is 484 against 1.
And the audit will show our ending fund balance is 10.9 million, which is 20.3%. But then, and that's again on the financial dashboard page, but then our current adopted budget draws that down to 8.7 million or 17%. But again, when we adopt that June budget, we had so much we didn't know. It's really gonna be that line there will get changed when we do our November revision, and that will give you a clearer picture of this year.
Good budget. That's what we see every year.
Exactly.
Try to be reasonable.
That's completely reasonable, but I also think the questions we are asked are frequently these bottom line issues, so I just want to be really clear that we work. We are we've had a loss. Thank you for all of these. Right, us and friends. Any other discussion? Those wonderful results.
And move on to our second discussion item, which is the 2023-2024 transportation plan.
Alright, you hit the 2 green buttons that say sell and lease. So we're gonna talk, we have met, come to our day in front of you. We've been fortunate that Dean Smith and her staff are absolute magicians. And they've reached into the hat and the programs. So we have to start talking about the scale of the problem and potential decisions.
So.
I thought we were good until we weren't.
We're always nervous at this.
Yeah. So.
I can sort through.
Yeah, that's all right, update, yeah, so just a little bit, we had talked about last year about just feeling the national shortage of drivers, and we are, just like everyone else. There was a school district near us that sent out, this was their first week of school, they sent out their information on, I believe it was Saturday, here are the 2 routes that'll be closed for the first week of school. So there are schools within our county nearby that are shutting down routes as well. Last year, we were able to make contingency plans and make it all work. I think there was 2 weeks out of the whole year last year that we had to cancel a route for a reason. Other than that, Denise and her staff were able to make it work, This year, it's worse. So where we sit right now, we are currently short 2 drivers to run the minimum number of routes we can do. Denise and Lori have already reduced 2 more routes from last year, and we're still 2 drivers short of making that. Chris has evidence we have on here, we're short 11 drivers from prior to the pandemic. We used to have 11 board drivers, and over the course of the year, we have cut down, compressed, compiled as much as possible. Our buses are full. But so this is where our challenge is, why we're currently where we are.
Are those 11 drivers all related to and from school, or is that?
Oh, we don't have.
I know you don't.
They were.
Numbers are up.
Yes, they were to and from school drivers, but that gave us the opportunity to be able to take athletics when we did.
And it gave us enough drivers. Sick. Or
Yeah.
pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
One of the things that's happened is we were at high 50%, maybe 60% something ridership. Pre-pandemic, we're down to the 40%, 42, 45% range. And we're down to kids, which has helped us kind of mask the problem, and the routes we've made it is efficient, but some are longer than they were, and we're impacted.
Right, and it's getting our buses back that could do athletics before that, because the routes are so much longer, that's not there. So what we are doing right now, to help fill that role too, of even being 2 drivers short, every day both mechanics are driving a bus. That means there's no one back left. If a bus has an error or something needs help, our mechanics are driving buses. Dispatch coordinator Lori Farmer, who answers the phones, who takes care of stuff, will be driving every day. She will need to drive every day. Less supervision at the bus hub then, nobody there to answer phones if something happens or something is running late. That'll be up to us to try and find another way to get the information out to families. We do have a district utility player super sub. He drives every morning the way the schedule works. So he picks up 1 route in the morning, he's picking that route up. The other unfortunate piece, that if a driver is out, being too short, if somebody calls in sick, is ill, or heaven forbid something happens next day, that's another route we'll have to cancel that day.
That would be the route for that.
That would be the route for that driver.
Or even that, it's gonna be.
Well, last year, for sure. So
Yeah,
routes
it rotates.
It's just this.
And that will be the plan. So what we're going, if we go to the next slide, so our plan of making this year works of where we sit, right? So we have consolidated 2 routes from last year. 2 routes a week will need to be shut down due to the lack of drivers. So what that means is we will do a rotating, to your point, Dick, when you brought it up. So as we go and look at what routes shut down, we will rotate those known shutdown routes. We'll rotate that. So that'll rotational impact families on a rotational basis. But that day, if Craig McCullough, bus driver of bus 10 is sick, bus 10 will be shut down that day if we don't have somebody to pick up that route. We have Denise and Lori and all of their magic of making it work, have created 6 two-tiered routes. When you look at some of our subs that are bigger, what they figured out they can do is, like, I'll use Thornton Farms as an example. They can run out to Thornton Farms first, pick up just high school and Creekside students, bring those students, drop them off, run back to Thornton Farms to pick up the Deck, Wiley, and Mill Creek students. Some of the things that are going to happen though, some of those double routes to help add the time and when we can get drivers to go. The Thornton Farm route, they will have to go out earlier, pick up a group of, I think, 8 to 10 students or so. Is that about how many? Approximately, don't hold us to the number, but they'll have to go out early to a farther route, pick up students. Those students will be students from all buildings. So what will happen to the Dex students, the Wiley students and the Mill Creek students is they'll get to run the route twice. They'll get picked up, they'll go to Thornton Farms, pick up high school and Creekside students, drop them off, they will stay on the bus, drive back to Thornton Farms, pick up the rest of the the Wiley and Mill Creek students, so they can come and get dropped off. That's just to kind of use efficiently as possible and be able to use the time we have to go out and bring students.
What's the maximum time that students have left the bus?
Great, I don't know if there is there I don't think
I
there
was gonna
is.
say there's routes in northern Michigan that are like 2 hours.
Right, but I mean, the
Well, that's
plan,
something to be announced.
Right.
It's, we've always tried to keep it there, but like those routes, the earliest pickups will be.
I realize pickup is 6:15.
and school starts at 8 or whatever.
Well, we drop it about usually around 8 o'clock.
Assuming
Elementary, above.
could be that long.
So we'll adjust the buses as possible, so they're not getting picked up so early and then waiting at the hub for 15 minutes before they're let into the building. We'll adjust those times to make sure it's as least amount of times on the bus as possible, but still efficiently get to where they need to be safely.
And then on the flip side, do they get dropped off first in the afternoon, or are they also?
They would get in the afternoon, it wouldn't impact the students at the other buildings because the high school Creekside students will have been back there and they're drop off, so they'll get dropped off. I think that depends. Do they all run the same in the afternoons in the morning?
No,
Not all of them.
most of them do.
So, but there may be somewhere that.
So it's the youngest students that are on there the longest.
It would be Mill Creek too. So the.
In Mill Creek.
These two buildings started at 8 o'clock, and the building started at 8:14.
Right.
So if they're in the furthest out, since they're down, it's the main road south.
Scioto Church.
South Church.
So, Scioto Church area will get picked up, they'll go to Fort, they'll drop off at the high school Creekside. And then go back to Fort and then hit the hubs, so it could be kindergartners, grade graders.
Part of also need to be daily communication to families, depending on those reminders. We sent reminder emails last year on a weekly basis that were sent out. Again, it would be all families to know bus 10 is shut down and I'm not always on my wherever how to send that text, let them know. So there'll be some families the day of, they may need to be aware of what they need to try and make plans. Our goal right now is we have an email to go out to families, route information about who's on what route will be completed by Thursday at noon, as well as the scheduled shutdown that will be running these available families Thursday. So to make sure they know and have as much time to plan. We have been talking of different alternate options that are out there of looking. One of them, so we'll call it option 1, is a district walking zone, which would mean students that are in town. We do not include Westridge as in town because we don't want kids walking underneath the bridge that we've seen before. Our drivers have seen kids coming through, so Westridge is not included in that. But that would also include Dexter Crossing, Walkabout Creek, Hilltop, and Huron Farms. If we had a walk zone that those students walk to school, we could reduce 2 routes.
But it still means that annex. And we're
Yes.
driving every day. Let's look at other drivers. So if someone's sick or out. they can be-
Why would
Yeah, let's talk to the.
Yeah.
There are some crossing issues, 5-year-olds, but we just have to consider what.
So there are pieces there that would have to be walked. So crossing guards were to cross the big road safely.
Maybe
Time to
the
get across.
streets.
It is.
We just have to, we haven't done.
Yep, there are some. It would the impact of, more parents driving either way, more parents would be driving their cars and visibility of students. So we could start it if we wanted to make sure tweak and information out to families, what those, that first week, that first Monday in October. Like that. Option 2, we could look at a 2-tiered system. It's a cost. It's the biggest cost of what would be there. Some benefits, You'd have full day pays, we could fill drivers up with full day of how do we fill their roles. Pickup drop off time would be more reasonable, the crowding on buses would be less, good behavior, and just less stress on our drivers where they are. So those are the benefits of being able to fill our roles. There are some cost implications of doing that, of course. When we shifted away from two-tier to single tier, there was a savings of over $450,000 at the time. That increased, here's some quick numbers. Don't hold me to those right now where they are. But currently we do for our regular routes that don't include our consortium students, our routes, Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor, we run currently, or last year, it was 1,081 miles a day. Double it, right? 8 miles to the gallon, 394. That cost was an additional, quick number was a little over $94,000 just in fuel that it would cost to do that. You were looking at the more driver hours of what we work now, filling our staff with the roles of the drivers we would need. That's an additional 443. Again, don't hold me to those. We'd really have to delve into really what that means and how it looks. It would
remind us of going to the double tier to the single tier was a major decision. And it was done for educational purposes. Trying to have all the kids come together and just coordinate between buildings. That's not a fun.
And the cost implications of this we have on the teacher side, staff side, and implications that we have to come through. So it is well over, but yeah, with the instructional side would be several $100,000.
We'd have to adjust building start times, so how that impacts athletics, after school activities, shared staff, there's, older staff watching younger staff, how we find it, so there's a way big other.
Very, very major cell. It is that conversion.
Yeah.
Probably some of it,
And it would cost $550,000 more plus the instructional costs. And we still wouldn't be able to run all the routes.
We still need it, and that's the hope of, we have drivers then to fill that. We make that work.
So given our current drivers, it's still.
One of the other ones that we're constantly thinking, throwing ideas around. If we were currently right now, the minimum, our routes, you get a minimum of 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. Some drivers are able to fill their day if they run routes to Ann Arbor consortium programs, Washington Community College or special ed runs get more hours. If we were to make it provide drivers a minimum of 6 hours a day of 3 and 3, providing make sure that they have jobs and tasks at hand to do the whole time. It's not just in saying they would have things to do. You would have, it could be counted as a full year of retirement then. When you look at it, which would be a benefit to drawing drivers, hopefully keeping them. There's been at least one driver here recently that left somewhere that he could get over 6 hours that would give him full year service. If he had more hours, he would have stayed, but at the time, that's not what we had to offer them. And there's benefits to using it. Again, implications, if we look at currently where we sit right now, we would add an additional 7,164 hours to the year. That cost would be $252,000.
There is do option 1 and 3 together. If we decide to do one.
You could combine a walk zone, you find that. When we have these conversations, we've gone and looked at, again, it's still getting the drivers. If this was a magic bullet, other people would have shared and put that out there, right? To make sure that they have what we need and what we have. We're still going to look at how do we target those individuals and get their Deneen and Lori do an incredible job of recruiting, reaching out, looking for people. They're not going to take any person off the street who walks in. They want drivers that are capable of driving the school bus and keeping our students safe on a daily basis. If they don't feel that driver meets those, they're not going to hire them. And I don't want to. I want our students safe. I want to be in the news for the incredible things we do, not an accident.
If we concluded that option 1 was acceptable and did option 3, that's in the right direction.
Yeah.
Both of them have benefits that are not exclusive.
True, that would work, they could be, yep, they could be filed, yep, that could be.
Do we know drivers that are currently would want that six hours that would be, or
I would say, if we're talking to Nina and Lori, I would probably have them call that individual back and see if we could find something, if they could draw them in. You know, their resources to draw them back in.
right, I mean, because it's a great fix, if we can get. if we can
But
draw
again,
them in.
it's all about drawing the right, drawing, not the right people, I'd say, right, it's drawing the people in, right, drawing the drivers in, to make it, yeah, get it here.
The true challenge is it's 2 hours and then another 2 hours switch. Which in the pool, we used to be able to get people to need healthcare, and they own their own business, et cetera, but with the Affordable Care Act, that changed. 6 hours really does, we don't have enough work for 8 hours, but it does increase. We have other jobs in the district. Learning. We used to have drivers that left to do a job during the day. I don't know if we have very many anymore.
We have a few, there's not as many, they're just retiring.
So we were always hesitant because we made the 2 hours and 3 hour. We had some people that wouldn't have done. They couldn't make their other thing.
I guess, thank you, because my question was, I know that some people, this is actually ideal for them, I mean, it's not a lot, but.
And I think the
just didn't want
point-
to mess with
There's
the
nothing
people it's
saying,
working for.
there's nothing saying we couldn't keep some of the routes. There's options, but everything we do is both a value decision and a cost.
The Obamacare. Guess I'm not sure what the issues are there. If you have people drive, you have to pay for 6 hours a day each week. Subtract 1 minute. You
Oh,
know,
we already offer healthcare. The issue with the Affordable Care Act is that we used to get people that own their own company that could get affordable health insurance. They were self-employed, but because of the Affordable Care Act, they purchased it in the marketplace for less than what it was. It used to cost a lot. It's still a lot.
They would be done with us.
I recognize the thing. Reach out to the community. I haven't seen things to say, carpool if you can. I mean, because I know I carpool kids to and from athletic stuff all the time because it just makes sense for me, so I don't know.
It's coming.
Okay, I figured as much. It's fine. I'd be happy to
We do have challenges, but the other challenge we have is we have more and more families driving because we've been closing routes down and the routes are full. And even when your kids get off the route, we'll talk about how full it was, but it really is full. But it adds traffic during the day, but the kids have to get here. So to give an idea of how full routes are, we're banking on not everybody shows up.
So when you look at some of these other routes, yeah, it's kind of like airlines. So the ones that, you know, you hope some students that day, and Nina and Lori right now are adding, they just added from Friday, so 32 additional students, 36 additional students of people needing busing. So the blue routes are much bigger right now because those are kind of those Thorpe Farm hybrid routes, right? Where they run, Dave drops them off, brings them back.
are those all shorter routes?
Short.
Well, they're
Because it's 2 runs,
How many kids fit on us?
77. All our buses are 77 passenger buses.
That's 3 to a seat.
Do you have data on pages of who's right, what, how old are these kids?
There are, we can pull that data up and see from what schools you come to, but it's a wide range from kindergarten to high school kids. There's high school students that ride the bus as well.
Just thinking about the hour, 45 minutes. Kindergarten or first grade, that's. It's not the other spectrum.
Our reality is we're at a point to either, if we want to offer bus service, this is what we can take our current structure. Yes.
So, let me ask a question that's gonna be wrapped up to, subtle option, which is probably not what you want, but one of the things I noticed over the years, when my kids were in kindergarten, the bus routes were, or the bus stops were very limited. And at the time, I remember information coming out saying, you know, it costs this amount of money to have a bus stop, therefore, you're gonna go to one of these that we have. And people had to go away sometimes, like I think here on Farms had like 3 stops when my kids were in kindergarten. Now, like if I looked last year, there were 11 stops between my kids and their school still coming out of Huron Farms. So I guess wrapping that thought, which is sort of how I was oriented to bus stops, I'm wondering, I know camps sometimes have like central drop-off points, and I'm wondering what would happen in terms of like the length of the ride and the number of kids who needed to be transported. If it were both, I shouldn't say it this way, but it's going to be inconvenient for parents regardless. But if there were sort of less stops at like central hubs, that parents would know there was a time to drop their kid off, and then a bus could zoom them to school, and the bus could maybe do 2 runs of that for the 2 different schools. I guess I'm just wondering what would happen if we consolidated stops in terms of giving the schools more flexibility to run routes or not, or have time to get an extra route in from a driver. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just thinking out loud, knowing that my orientation to bus stops has changed since my kindergarten. Well, that would be a
After that.
benefit.
And we can look, I can talk to Nina and Laura, I know one of the issues though, the bigger the stops are, and I know over the course of the need, you can jump in and stop me, part of the, I think you know where I'm gonna go. Part of the thing when the stops are bigger and the bus lets off 20 kids, you're trying to look and see, does every child have an adult? One of the experiences I had when I was principal of Anchor Elementary Cornerstone is half day of school, group stop, kids all got off, right? They went home, we had nothing, an hour later, the teacher called the parent to ask, and he goes, well, by the time I have to pick my daughter up. School got out at 11:40. Oh, well then is she at home? She rode the bus, so quick find out, me and Mary Jo Sinelli drove over, found the address, drove over, sure enough, the little 6-year-old was sitting there watching TV with a bag of Cheetos on her lips, and I knocked on the door, she's like, oh. Yes, sir, she's here. But because of one of those group stops, so that's just something we have to really figure out, how would you pair stuff up? Because the parent, I'm quite often like, oh, come on, you can walk with me. That people think, the drivers think there is an adult for every child. And that would just be one of my hesitations. I could talk to Nina, Laura, our driver, like, we would just have to put another thing in place about how, before I let you off, here's Hope's child, we're good. Here's Chris's child, we're good. Before, just for that student safety. So that would just be one thing, not saying we can't look at it, or I can talk with Nina, Laura,
Right,
but.
and you gotta keep in mind that we're pretty strict on who is on the routes now. And who's at what stops. So if we start making hub stops, because Chelsea does do it at the schools. Then we have to make sure that they're always getting on at this, who's gonna be on that bus when. We have to know who's on it, we just don't want anybody going to this hub stop and getting on the bus and taking it to school. Because then we lose track of who the student is. And did we bring in a student that really doesn't belong at the school?
And we do have a parents request often. Problems, we have to build the route so precise. So we're not that we can't do it, it's just.
Yeah.
Right, we'll just have to look
Yeah,
at it.
we can look at it and see what would be the, yeah.
I guess generally speaking, I'm with Jennifer, that's a super long time for a kid to be on a
It
bus. And I kind of feel like if that happens, parents are gonna pull their kids off the bus. So what I don't want is for you guys to do all the work to set up these systems that then the parents are gonna be upset about, rebel against, and not use anyway. So in looking at the options, I want it to work. And so as I'm like looking at these items.
Other options are welcome, and other thoughts are welcome, no, that's, you are welcome to throw things out, I mean, we've been, or the need, or all of us have been racking our brains and really trying to talk through the options to make it work, so we always.
I just got a month or so, I think we take a look and see. based on actual.
We're kind of banking on that. It's, we're at the point, we can't run 2 routes every week. Our mechanics and warrior driving, there's no way to have to answer phones. Mechanics are only for so many hours to still get to their core work. Or even only do so many hours on the bus to still get to the runway, and then we still can't run 2 of the routes if everybody gets sick. So we have some serious work.
I want to say that I deeply appreciate all of the work that you were putting in and knowing all of the different factors that you have to put in. Number one, obviously, I know that you were always looking at the kid's safety, and that was the first thing that you
Sure.
said when there was an option thrown out, it was wait, hang on, there's a safety factor.
Right.
So I know that there are so many factors that you have to weigh in, and I just want to say we appreciate all that you've done, all the magic that you have worked in the past years, and I know that this is such a big
Thank you.
undertaking, and it's a burden. I know that you're coming to us and going, we just can't,
We can't do
we
it.
can't do it this year. Absolutely, and with all of the changes, so I mean, I know we're throwing things out at you, but I know we all deeply
We want to help.
appreciate, yeah, we appreciate, we wanna,
If nobody wants kids to be on the bus for 2 hours.
Right.
nobody does.
absolutely.
Our challenge is we have 40 students per square mile. So there is the time it takes to drive per mile.
I'm sure it's no revelation. Obviously, communication critical, and somehow it seems to me we want to really, whatever we can do, we want to do it, appreciate it, instead of focusing on what we can't do, that we wish we
And that meeting, I think, I really appreciate when you have been there, you know, I'm in a panic sitting with my kid, and, you know, it's just, so generally this week it's a half day. They had a doctor's appointment, they forgot, I was there, them up, they got plus, something happens, and so I think it's, have somebody at the hub to talk. The big thing is really important. Thanks for your work.
It's a heck of a system to watch at the hub at night when schools are calling Deneen and Lori that are there, the drivers trying to find Craig, where is Craig? Craig needs to be here, there, but every day our kids get home safely. It is. Controlled chaos.
It's- yeah.
I was pretty stiff. So that was my sound.
I guess in terms of options, to Melanie's point, I sort of wonder what would happen if the message that went out to the community was, we can't run busing the way we did last year. We are looking for families to opt out. Because, you know, the survey that went out was like, are you riding the bus or not, which is like a wonderfully optimistic ask. And I wonder if we go back to our community and say, look at this, we are unable to provide it with our current staffing levels. If you are in a position to drive your own student, drive your neighborhood students, carpool, if you are able to opt out, you know, fill out this form, contact us. I don't know if that would be helpful or not. I will say I'm worried, like in terms of the options you provided, as much as I'm actually a fan of the walking zone, I'm also worried about equity for families who just really can't monitor their getting their kid to school, even if they live relatively close. So I'm worried about taking away that option. I'm worried about the budget and taking on the 2-tiered system, and I understand there's a lot of reasons we went to 1-tiered. I guess of all things, I'm favorable towards making accommodations for staff that would be willing to work for us for more hours a day if we are able to fill those hours in a way that's meaningful to the staff person in the district. So I guess I'm just throwing out there my response to them. And I'm also thinking generally that our community has been very responsive when there have been these sorts of things. And if we said, you know, are you able to help, that people might be willing to do.
What are the qualifications to be a driver?
They've gotten much more stringent in the last 8 months,
Oh.
right? Or last year. I guess the last year it's been got much more.
Yeah.
They have a shortage, it'd be teacher certification more strict. So now instead of being K5 or K6, now they're K2 or 3-5, and it made being a bus driver harder than being a teacher.
What are their qualifications?
The qualifications, they have to have a CDL with a BPS on your driver's license. They have to have a clean driving record. They have to be able to pass a medical exam. They have to be able to pass drug screening, and that's throughout their whole career. They have random testing throughout their whole career. They have also schooling that they have to renew. They have a 3-day class that they have to go to. Plus, every 2 years, they have a 6-hour class they have to go to. Problem is split shift, that's an issue. So the qualifications are a lot stricter than what they used to be, kind of like a truck driver.
It's a lifestyle acceptance too, because not only with like random testing, but with alcohol, with the CDL license, like drug driving is 0.08 for anybody, but if you have a CDL license, it's 0.04 anytime you drive, not in the school, not even in your own car. And if you're 0.02, you're impaired, you're 24 hours out of service. So you have to know that going in, even into your weekend, that if you have one beer and somebody pulls you over, you're gonna be out of work. And that gets reported to the federal motor carrier through the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse, and that will stand you right. You can go to any other employer.
We're gonna consider asking people to opt out of the bus and drive, really try to focus school. Seems to be like occasionally we've had walk days or something, that you had parents who would just kind of leave kids around. I think maybe that's start off with it, but if we were to create walk zones, get some folks in each neighborhood that would be willing to walk with the kids, set up some kind of schedule or something. So that would make everybody feel.
I think our message now to families, we can this piece of people talking.
I was probably gonna hire some. It started orchestrating that, but we were something.
But I think getting the message out there more sooner than later, people probably don't realize what this is. I agree with that message, though. Are you already having a ride? I knew how cute it was, so I don't put my kids in the bus just to try to, and it's only 2 kids, to try to relieve you from that one stop.
It might help too that when we did the registration, everyone is registering just in case.
Yeah. Right.
So if we do, and I like the idea of letting the community know, because that might help alleviate some of the loads, because loads are really high.
I think if you share those numbers, I think parents are going to understand. Because that really, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
We're hearing it, and then you see those
It's a lot.
numbers and you go, I know.
And it's hard on kids.
We have a letter ready to go through.
All right, thank you.
We can model it after some of the pieces from last year. We helped generate a lot of the same thing. We talked about the routes last year. We can pull some of those pieces out of that too.
Can you do a quasi walking zone? I mean, I know to speak to some parents I know are really worried about their children walking. There's other parents that walk, get out there, you can get to school. So I know that seems to, I don't know if it still is, but it used to be pretty well funded. 50-ish. But I don't know, like optional. Yeah,
Like
like
to do something.
within this zone, if your child can walk, would you allow them to walk to school? I don't know. Part of that.
We try to be, we've gotten better too, so crosswalk going in, the lights, one across the hilltop isn't completed yet, but there'll be flashers and the painted lines there with the crosswalk through the hilltop. They're going to Dexter High School for all students going to Dexter High School. We also cut down and took out a lot of trees, making sight lines much more visible down there to make it safer.
We can work with the city. They're out, like prosecutors.
Or if they choose to. They choose, they go over here.
Well,
We
they've got
appreciate
a couple.
They don't want-
One's up in Mill Creek.
they don't want to move over here.
I guess I don't know how the decisions. Use prosecutor. They,
I will say that in an ideal world, I would love you guys to not have to manage this every week. So if there's a way to ultimately have a solution, some combination of things we've been talking about, such that you guys aren't having to send out routes that might be shut down the next week. I mean, I know things are gonna happen and, staffing is tight, but I guess I would be supportive of whatever, 6-hour positions or whatever, such that we could get you to the point where like transportation wasn't actively managing every night and every week a planned shutdown or a planned whatever, for what that's worth.
We would too, we would as well. Part of this year, was the emails. I would check in with Nina and Lori on a weekly basis, set the email up to go up Friday afternoon, to go out to all families that are there. As doing this, we're gonna have to check in almost on a daily basis now. Hey, Craig's gonna be sick tomorrow. We don't have a driver for bus 33. We need to send something out. Hey, families, this person has, an ankle surgery that needs to happen. So like, who knows what it is? It'll have to be on a daily basis, navigating almost.
We set them out by 6:30 in the morning, so the families can do it. It would have to be earlier this year, though.
And so we do, text is probably the best way to get people to pull up on their phones rather than emails.
One last question on the, my understanding is that we're not required to provide busing except for students with special needs.
Correct.
So if you have a route that is canceled because Joe is sick and they have special needs student, I mean, are they on the same buses or?
Only the students that are referred to distribution. So we have a special bus that.
We have 3 special ed rooms, and they're not.
Okay, thank you.
Because we know we can't cancel them.
See, this is another thing that you were handling, that you had it right away, you knew what we were talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, there are a lot of people, students, kiddos, IEPs that are on gen ed buses. But it's only the 3 special ed buses that we would never cancel.
Thank you. That was a lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna put it a million times.
There's a lot.
So,
And, we're, when you're making decisions, look at, kind of think about what are we gonna be able to do to get drivers in, because my staff, over 50% of them are at retirement age, and there's a few that we've asked not to retire, to stay with us another year or so. And I got kind of stuff in stay until at least Christmas.
And the vast majority are very good friends with Deans that love her, so they stay. And Lori's, they like Lori too.
They do.
They like Lori too.
So, like the 3 hours, the walk zone, I mean, that kind of stuff. I was here when we went from 2-tier to 1-2-tier. I did that too. I really didn't want to be here to put it back the other way. So,
and it doesn't fix the problem.
and here I
And
am.
it's not again.
And right now, it doesn't fix the problem.
No, it doesn't fix the problem.
So just out of curiosity, with the walk zone, because I can see, when you think about where most of the population lives, getting up to the deck is one thing. Getting kids to the high school is another. If you were doing a walk zone, would you consider having a shuttle to the high school or like from the bus hub?
Right now, we do have one from the bus up Wiley Bench. To the high school, but normally the high schools like to walk anyway. They're the guys that do like to walk to school. Because they walk with the front. Or they get a riding, it's the little ones, but we could also do a shuttle from Wiley Bench from like the in-town. Or like you were talking, the hub area. But we don't want everyone to go to that spot,
No, I do not
avoid
think that's the
traffic in
best
town.
solution.
Yeah.
I wanna
So
think
we'll
about that, and what
definitely
time
look
they
at
get
that.
them, but we can look at that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just the hours, so with the new sidewalks, the bridge that was put in, the past cut. You know, like I said, things are opened up, I think a few years ago, there were more trees and bushes, it was like a little scary or whatever. Now things are open, it's mowed, it's very clear and clean, crosswalks are there, they provide that for the city.
I mean, the walk zone sounds great, but we live in Michigan,
Right.
we need to remember that.
Most districts have a walk. Most districts have a half. I was shocked that we lost the street.
I will have you know, I walked to school
Oh, yeah.
uphill in the snow both ways.
Remember one that we didn't have buses.
Exactly.
The city buses.
My town had a walk zone and they counted a path through the woods as part of it, so it's like, I'm not sure if that's really great to send kids through the woods, but that's how they count it. So I didn't qualify.
Barely survived.
So in conclusion, like, we have great empathy, and I think you're willing to support anything that you come up with.
So our plan right now is to communicate with families, how we can grow. Set up a rolling road plan, so that we can immediately plan to look at options. Based on tonight, so that we need to ask them the carpool provides about the health system, so we can not count on them providing. Look at options 3 and possibly 1 or a combination of 2. Look at safety needs and the number of jobs are reduced. Create a plan we would manage about the daily or weekly shutdowns.
I can just maybe adjust. If we call it non-transport zones or no transport zones instead of walk zones, we're not telling kids they have to walk to school. We're just going to not transport them. While it might seem a little subtle, I know we had a lot of discussion about this way back a million years ago when we were first talking about this. If we tell kids they have to walk, we call it a walk zone, we're telling them to walk, and if something does happen, then from a liability standpoint, it's you told that kid they had to walk. And we're really just saying we're not going to transport. So if out of this meeting we're having minutes or things like that, I would just suggest that we shift that terminology and use that terminology if we're considering.
We also have an example of how to bike transport.
And I do know that we have tried a no transport zone in the past. So we'll be prepared.
The reality is we
If
have
that's
to,
the way we're gonna go.
we're going to need to have some such.
For sure.
But there's fear of like. It's not a we would like to do, it's what we have. Sorry,
That's
to bring
interesting.
The discussion's been,
sorry to bring this right before school started, but the data as you're collecting is gonna rise, you never know if it's signing up.
We're still getting registrations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I feel like we've had other problems that there's a graduate school bus there, so.
we think we have a driver, the driver then doesn't come back or start, so then that's down one and fill back, fill, and so it's.
I wanted to add one other thing on the idea of the larger stops too. As a driver, it's a nightmare when you get 10, start getting over 10, and you have to make sure which way they're going, and trying to make them follow the rules on how to cross and to cross properly, and follow the rules and not run crossways across an intersection, and make sure they're not going behind the bus instead of in front of the bus. That all piles up, and then it's harder on the driver, and it takes longer, and you have to track it. Because the blind spot behind the bus is 37 feet, I can't see. So that's why it's very important to cross the front, but to control that is hard. We get like Fort Farms, nightmare.
I think that's actually a significant factor. The student tell it we had.
Yes.
Years ago. Now that thing is the only student responsible. The other get it all right. Chaos.
Thank you for sharing. Sorry. Yes, that is.
No, it's very important to think that you quit. Oh, all right. Yes, thank you so much.
All miracles.
Thank you.
There's another rabbit somewhere, but it's gonna involve us creating it.
Yeah, and it may be
Don't be long.
canceling a few routes so we can figure it out.
All right, we'll move on to our second opportunity for public participation. We have not had anyone come in since we started, so I can move on to board comments. Who's excited for school? School, yeah. Looking forward to getting started. So no, it's all of us. Yeah. You guys are days now.
Hi, I mean, I love. There's more.
All right, we have informational items, finance committee meeting minutes from 8/22, and as I said earlier, our meetings roster. We're moving, we do have closed sessions.
I'll move in the Board of Education will open closed session for purposes of discussion of negotiations and about 5 minutes.
Second. One vote.
Yes. Aye. Chirlandi.
Aye.
Sawera.
Aye.
Brutally. Aye. Greater.
Aye. All right, 5 minutes.